Welcome to Inspired to Heal, a podcast that celebrates the careers of dedicated innovators, educators, clinicians, and leaders within government-run health institutions. I look forward to sharing their stories, honoring their contributions, and inspiring others. Season 1 focuses on former staff at Cook County Hospital. They all played key roles in building and implementing state-of-the-art programs in Chicago's safety net health system. I'm Bill Trick, and you're listening to Inspired to Heal. Today, I'm honored to host Dr. Chris Acob, the longtime director of Cook County Health's Internal Medicine Residency Program. Because of her sense of humor, humanity, and humility, she was one of the most popular physicians in the health system. It's possible that it is also in large part because she was the drummer in what is likely the longest-running residency program rock bands. Chris, you were the Mick Jagger of the band. You remained while others came and left.
Thank you, Bill. I don't know about Mick Jagger. The man is clearly talented. All I had was persistence. So, appreciate being here today. Thank you.
I mentioned earlier the humility that you have. I went to one of your concerts, and I think there was talent there.
Oh, you did see me play,
Yes,
huh?
I did.
The band was composed of residents with a lot of love for music. They were missing a drummer at the start, and I decided I was going to learn to play drums and audition for the position.
Did you have a musical background other than drums?
When I was young, I was enrolled for piano lessons. Like any Filipino kid, you almost have to have one instrument at least. Now, I didn't really enjoy it because every time I hit the wrong note, the teacher would actually whack my finger. I quit learning how to play the piano. My first failure in life at such a young age. But my love for music was really there.
I'm glad to hear that the corporal punishment style of teaching piano didn't dissuade you from playing music, and I'm sure your future bandmates would agree with me. So it sounds like you had the opportunity to play keyboards or drums, and because there was a lack of a drummer, you stepped up, decided to learn the drums, and became the drummer for the resident-run rock bands.
That's correct. I have my son to thank for the drums. I enrolled him for lessons. 11 to 12 on Saturdays was our drum lessons, and it's the Dylan and Mommy Day. The residents knew not to call me within the time period because I was in my drum lessons. I knew my priorities. I ended up playing for a band. I often tease Dylan. I tell him, Dylan, it really ain't cool when your mom is way cooler than you. He hated it so much.
Was that part of your interview process, or this was just by luck you would end up with talented musicians?
I wish that was the only criteria because it would have been so easy. But no, during recruitment, the two things I really look for are as follows. The first one is competence, clearly. The second one is fit into the program. If they happen to play instruments, that's a plus already. I did believe that people with interest outside of medicine tend to bring more flavor to the program. And they tend to have other skill sets, and they would have lived a life outside of medicine. And it just made things more interesting. But it wasn't a criteria to get into the program.
It's nice to hear that you recognize the value of people bringing talents in other areas. What inspired you to go into medicine in the first place?
I would have been a photographer. Photography was really my first love and probably the career I would have had. When I was in high school, I would read all the books about photography. That's what I wanted to do. I asked my father if he can buy me a camera. He said, sure, I can, but only if it's a hobby and not a career. And so I agreed to that condition, and therefore I can never go into photography as a career. Now, having said that, I need not look far for role models and inspiration for medicine. My father was a rural physician in southern Philippines, and he was really an excellent physician. In retrospect, when I think about the cases that he would take care of, I don't think I, as an internist, can do what he did. But as a child, I was his assistant.
Mm-hmm.
I replenished his medical bag. I cleaned his clinic. I would go with him when he made house calls. My mother was also a pharmacist, and I used to say that we had a monopoly in the small town. Because after my dad sees the patient, all the patient had to do was go to my mom's pharmacy and get the medicines from there.
Do you recall specific cases that influenced you, or did you feel like it was just the general approach to how he cared for patients that inspired you to go into medicine?
His practice covered pediatrics and OB and surgery. He was the only physician in the area.
Mm-hmm.
I saw really gruesome injuries that I probably should not be seeing as a child, but it was the way of life.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I don't remember the cases that he saw, but I do know that when people did not have money to pay him, he was perfectly fine with that. I remember sometimes patients bringing vegetable to show their appreciation to my dad.
That sounds really appealing. No prior authorization, no insurance plans, no one tracking your revenue, just the doctor doing what he thinks is right for the patient.
That's correct. And it's out of the pocket, so money or produce. And sometimes they can't afford it.
So you ate a lot of good vegetables.
I do love vegetables.
So you went to medical school in the Philippines and then decided to come to the United States to train. Why did you pick Cook County?
I always say, Bill, that I picked Cook County for the wrong reason. I was simply looking for a place where I had family.
Mm-hmm.
My sister was already a resident in the same program that I eventually became program director. So I joined her at Cook County. Now, having said that, I did stay for the right reason.
Coming for family never seems like the wrong reason.
I'm lucky that I really enjoyed working at county. We worked together for 1 year
Mm-hmm.
when I was an intern. Stayed at county for 30 years, but eventually my sister's son, Angelo, joined county as an ophthalmology resident. So in total, county had about 33 years of an Acob physician. It's a legacy I'm very proud of.
In that 30 plus years, how did the program change?
A lot. The program is really quite different than when I was in training.
Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse.
I think for the better.
Mm-hmm.
We did have the cool cases to teach us, but I don't think the structure of the education was really as firm. From the education perspective, what has changed really is, fast forward to now, the cool cases are still there, but we had a better system to teach. The biggest difference would be the structure that we have now, as well as the community that we have built around the film system.
The firm system is 3 firms, A, B, and C. When a resident comes in, they belong to one of those firms and they stay in that firm for their entire 3 years. So it creates a smaller community of attendings and residents, which is important in such a big training program.
I often tell applicants to the program that I want them to think of the firm as their family and the program as their community.
Speaking of community, you have a very large, diverse training program. How do you build that community with people from all over the world?
It starts off as just making sure that they understand that they have a responsibility to each other. I see this sometimes, Bill, when they're applying for fellowship, because it's so cutthroat. There may be 10 applicants for cardiology, and they always feel like they have to one-up each other. And so from the very get-go, I send them a message. The way I tell them in my Yoda way of telling them is that, guys, there's enough sunlight for everybody. It makes them pause a bit.
Yeah.
What I'm telling them is, just because I give a good recommendation to one person, this means that the rest I would have forgotten.
Yeah.
So it's okay. You got to support each other through training. The first day when they meet each other, I ask them to look around the room. And I tell them that The person beside you, you're responsible for them. And that will be the family you will have for the next 3 years. So I set that tone from the get-go. One of the things that I have to put a lot of thought into. When I accepted the role of program director, I only had one condition. And the condition was to separate as a division of postgraduate education. During the discussion, they said, Chris, what's the point? It's just semantics. I wanted to send that message that education is important, that it is the priority. And so when we separate as a division, I was sending the message that the program leadership and the firm leadership are educators first and foremost. I'm lending them to the different divisions for their clinical time. And the board pass rate started climbing. And I was in training. I think the board pass rate at the time was only 39%. By the time I had left, we'd had several years of 100%. That's because we taught excellent bedside medicine. For a while, we were doing board review courses, and eventually I discontinued that because my theory was that if we teach good medicine at the bedside, they will pass the boards. There's no doubt in my mind. And indeed, that is what happened.
Having a house staff that was really exceptional always challenged you to be better at the bedside.
I totally agree with that. One of the things I changed was the strategy for recruitment. I had mentioned that eventually we did away with the board review courses because people passed just with the clinical teaching that we had. But I also thought that we have to be selective with recruiting. I'm not going to mention what grade, but they have to at least reach that mark such that they have a higher chance of passing the board. I mentioned this mark because automatically people will say, well, Dr. Acob, this is your mark. I did much better than that, and I wasn't accepted into the program. Eventually, I realized that the successful trainees have multiple milestones that they are really good. If all the resident can do is get high scores, it does not guarantee them to be good physicians. The good physicians are high average in that medical knowledge, but they're able to do other things. They're able to communicate. They're resilient. They're able to play well with their peers. They're able to negotiate. They're able to take setback. So there's a lot of other ingredients almost in making a complete candidate for me.
I recognize that you also valued having a diverse incoming class. And by diversity, I mean from all over the world, so that you didn't have predominantly one country or one region. We were really able to recruit across many countries and continents.
That is true. I had one CMR actually tell me one day, Dr. Acob, do you know that Cook County is the Harvard of IMGs? And I basically said, Arslan, where's your self-respect? Harvard is a Cook County for AMGs. So it's, I guess, a brand name. It's very well known around the world.
CMR is Chief Medical Resident, which is someone who has just completed their residency program and signs on for a year of teaching and administrative responsibilities. IMG is the acronym for International Medical Graduates, and AMG, the acronym for American Medical Graduates.
As a leader at Cook County, which does have its challenges, could you speak to leadership in a resource-strapped environment?
The first thing I do is have an honest discussion with myself. What is my strength? What is my weakness? I run with my strength and I round up my weakness because those are the things that will hold me back. Let me apply that now to the program. I have to admit that it's a resource-poor program. I will never have as much resources like a private institution. And that's okay. I recognize that. And in that setting, What are my strengths? Well, historically, we've always had the really cool clinical cases. We've always taught clinical reasoning at the highest level. That is ingrained in us because we have to know what we're doing. We have to preserve the resources for our patient.
Mhm.
So those are the strengths. Weaknesses would be inefficiencies. It's hard to onboard residents when they're just starting. They're coming from all over the world with visa and licensing issue. So I think I have to fix that, because otherwise, whatever goal I may have, that inefficient onboarding will hold me back. We were able to really successfully put people in the fellowship of choice, right?
Mhm.
They're smart doctors. They were well trained. We used our strength in honing that skill set. But had we not fixed the onboarding, they would not have been able to pursue fellowship. So people are so happy when they say, oh, our fellowship rates are so high. It is because of the letters that you wrote for the resident. What people don't know is, singularly, what fixed our fellowship placement was the onboarding. Once I was able to fix the onboarding such that people started on time, they graduated on time. They were able to apply for the fellowship that they wanted. It requires an honest discussion of things. What are the things I can do well? I got to run with that. And what are the things I can correct so I can get this program to the next level?
I hope that you built an onboarding system that can endure the next 4 years, as the United States might enter a period where it's tough to come from other countries, which is unfortunate because many talented physicians come from other countries, train in the United States, and often stay in the United States.
We tried, but I think the current program leadership will really have to make adjustments and again strategize around the current reality.
Mhm. Are there any programs that you feel like we really connected and they really like to take our residents?
So there was no doubt in my mind that all I had to do was open that door a bit.
Mhm.
Because once they realize how good our graduates are, they will speak for themselves. They know that Cook County clinician product,
Yeah.
and they will therefore want to recruit it subsequently. Mayo, their oncology program, mostly they take only their own graduates, but they took 2 from our own program. When we send our residents now to fellowship, I ask them to be cognizant that, you have to think about the people coming after you,
Yeah.
right? They sometimes come to me and say, oh, Dr. Jacob, thank you for opening the door for me. And I say, I opened the door for you, but I also opened it for the rest of the people that's coming after you. So please remember to do the right thing when you're in training.
Well, your admonitions seem to have worked. You must have had strong influence beyond their time here. So,
I still do get calls from the residents. I just came back from Italy. I was invited to attend a wedding of an alumni. When I was still a program director, I never attended the weddings because I felt, that's like favoritism if I attend one and not the other.
Yes.
And therefore, I have to accept every single invitation. So I never did attend any wedding.
Now you're free to go to Italy.
Well, it was just beautiful.
In your graduation speech, you had a phrase that I was particularly fond of, and it was about getting things right in your mind first or your heart, and that the other would follow. Do you remember your quote?
I think what I said was something like, if I ever have a challenging situation, the first thing that I manage is the discussion in my head and the emotion in my heart.
Yes.
Was that it?
That was it. You had to make sure that logically what you were doing was correct, that you were doing the right thing for everyone involved, whether that's the patients, the trainee, the health system, that your heart had to feel right about the action that was taken.
There's a lot of emotional intelligence that's needed in the program director job. I had to manage those emotions because when I sneeze as a program director, the rest of the program will get cold. So I'm very cognizant of that.
Yeah.
And so if they feel like during COVID time, right? If they see me stressed and scared, which I was, by the way, they will read into that. And that will be the emotion of the rest of the program.
Yeah.
I really had to manage my fears and the emotions in my heart.
Well, what I saw was someone who was even-keeled and balanced, and I'm sure they saw that as well.
It doesn't mean that I didn't get scared. The early part of COVID was really hard for me. I remember this because in March or April of 2020 or so, my mom, who was in a nursing home, was really sick. It was COVID. So my sister-in-law and I were managing my mom in the nursing home. So I was dealing with that. I was dealing in what to do with the program. So it was really difficult for me. That very first weekend, I really lost it. It was just too much. If it's just a program, I can deal with that. But having the concern that my mother would get sicker, in my office, I actually sat down under the table and I just cried.
Mm-hmm.
And then Suja caught on how much stress I was having, and she said, "Chris, I need for you to take the weekend off. I want you to turn off your phone and just take a step back, then come back again on Monday." And you know what? Once I cleared my mind and I was able now to manage those fears and emotions, and I was able to come back, I was more settled. So that really helped me.
What year did you start at Cook County? I ask this because I think around the time you started was the AIDS epidemic. Was there a similar fear, or did it feel a little less anxiety-provoking?
I started in 1993. That's one of the bookends in my career.
Mm-hmm.
AIDS at the start and then COVID. The fear was there. I think my experience is different because I was in training as opposed to now in leadership position for the COVID. I was simply on the receiving end as a trainee, and I just followed what I did.
Yeah.
COVID, it's a different kind of fear for me. The uncertainty of this whole thing made me feel so bad that I'm sending these young physicians into some unknown place, and they may get sick, they may die. And I didn't know what the outcome was, so I was just going to do my very best to protect them. That weighed heavily on me.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I am responsible for sending those young kids to their clinical rotation.
Right. And at that time, there were physicians dying. We knew from other countries that had experienced the epidemic before us that physicians were in a high-risk category.
I do have a memorable story with COVID. Can I tell you that?
Of course.
So this was early COVID. We admitted a patient who did not speak English. And he comes to county because he says he has a scrotal tumor. He was told it could be cancer. It needs to be removed. But he also has a bad heart. He had a cardiac cath done, and nobody would touch the heart, and nobody would dare operate on this tumor that could be cancer. So I came to Cook County because I want you to take care of me. This guy was such in a bad place. He was by himself. He doesn't speak English, locked down, and nobody can help him out. Even when he possibly had cancer, they still will not operate because of the bad heart. Right? So he comes to county. Okay, let's try to get the records from the other hospital. Day 1, day 2, day 3. Social workers were working from home. They couldn't send it to us by mail. I realized this patient needs FedEx much more than me as a doctor.
Yeah, right.
So I decided, if nobody's going to get it, I'm going to go get it. And so I asked it to ride with me. We had the window open because we didn't want to close it all the way. We could infect each other. We were wearing masks, and I told him to sit on the corner of the car all the way in the back. We picked up the cardiac cath films and then drove back. Only then were we able to decide on what to do with the patient, and that was done. My intern actually says one of my best memories in training is that my program director chauffeured me to pick up a medical record.
It's good you had that advanced ventilation system in your car. Windows. I hope it wasn't January.
Well, it was around March or April, but it was still pretty cold. And somebody had asked me at that point in time, you didn't have to do that. I know I didn't have to do that. So why did I? And I think it will come back to what I always tell the residents. When they run into issues, when they're so tired that they don't know what to do in the middle of the night, I'm so tired, let me just get this over with, just check all the boxes so I can go home. I said, I want you to just take a pause and ask yourself one question, because it will give you the right perspective. And that question that I want you to ask yourself would be, if this patient in front of me is my mother or father, what should I do? What will I be doing different? At that point in time for this particular patient, I asked myself that question. This guy didn't have any relatives. If this were my mother or father, I would hope that somebody would actually go out of their way to help that person. Mm-hmm. Right? Didn't have family in the US, didn't speak the language. And so if at some point in your life, when you are in a conundrum, you don't know what to do, ask yourself that question. It will always give you the right perspective on what the next step would be.
Since retirement, I think it's been a little over a year now. What have you been up to?
Oh my, I still get asked a lot if I miss my old job. I do miss the people. It's always been about the people at county. I feel like retirement is like turning the page to a new chapter. And no matter how much fun I had and I felt so valued, I have to make sure I turn that page.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, I will not enjoy the new chapter. Very eager learner. I only have 2 criteria. Is what I'm learning fun for me? Does it give me joy?
Yeah, good.
And if the answer is yes, I'm all for it. I signed up for an options trading class.
Oh my goodness. That's a surprise, but
it is, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're as successful at that as you were at running the residency program, you have a very wealthy future ahead of you.
I hike a lot. I hike probably about 12 miles every week. I travel a lot. Mm-hmm. I went to Spain. I did the Camino, 117 kilometers in a week. Oh, I went back to photography, Bill. I kept the promise I made to my 18-year-old self to go back. I take a lot of photos when I travel. Mm-hmm. I actually got invited to exhibit and auction some of my pictures, and I sold some photos, and I earned $420.
Good for you. So what advice would you have to people who are considering working in a government-run safety net health system such as Cook County?
Always remember the why. And if you keep that at the forefront, you will be good. Mm-hmm. That's what fueled me all these years. I knew that what is important for me in my career was here at County.
A final question. If you could choose one item to put into your physician's bag, literal or figurative, what would it be?
I think I mentioned it. It's that perspective that you have to give yourself at that critical juncture, which is ask yourself that question. If this patient in front of me is my mother or my father, what would you do?
It's been great touching base and talking to you again, Chris.
The joy is mine. I appreciate you, Bill. This is so much fun. Thank you.
After my conversation with Chris, I reached out to Dr. Paula Eryazici, who's a cardiologist in the suburbs of Philadelphia and trained in the mid-2000s with Dr. Acob, but more importantly, she was the lead singer in the first resident rock band called Code Blue, and Paula had this to say.
We had such a good time. One day at the hospital, me and Gabrielle met. Gabrielle was first year. On that conversation in the hospital, he was like, well, we play guitar. I'm really trying to get a band here going. And I said, I sing. I had previous bands and I was singing in chorus in medical school and all that. And he said, is that right? Because we don't have nobody to sing. And we didn't have no drummer. Chris Acob, on an informal conversation, mentioned casually that she is taking drum classes because her son was taking class and she wanted to support him going as well.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can't play. So she joined and quickly she becomes a leader. We don't even realize she leads us, right? She's that kind of person that softly takes over in a very loving, motherish type of way.
Yeah.
She has this very young spirit, right? I guess that's why she deals so well with new residents. She has her way to tell you things that will not be offensive. That will be constructive in a very nice way.
Yeah, quiet, but definitely strong.
Exactly. A mellow type of leadership that really conquers your heart. You listen to her like you would listen to your mom. And then before you notice, you're getting advice from her.
Inspired to Heal podcasts are for informational purposes only and should not be considered as health or professional advice. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the host or the guest's current or past employers.